Well, hello, everybody. Good Saturday to you. We have a great show lined up for you tonight, and we have two very special guests with Arkady and I today. We have Timur Besengurov, who is an experienced legal and consulting services specialist, business strategist, innovator. He has 20 years of experience in the immigration field in Moscow. And he has written a lot of articles on immigration. He works closely with the federal agencies and the committees involved in development of laws in Russia. And you can find all his information on the American in Crimea website. Tim Kirby, of course, you're all familiar with. He moved to Russia from Cleveland, Ohio to Moscow in 2006, became a Russian citizen in 2018. Tim is a media guy. He's been on radio, TV, and he speaks at major Russian forums. And he runs numerous video channels and Telegram channels and is the face of the American Villages in Russia project in cooperation with Timur. And again, you can find all Tim's information on our website as well. So welcome, gentlemen.
All right. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Arkady.
Thank you, guys. Before we dive into very specific questions, which I'm sure will be super useful to the viewers and showcase Timur and Tim's talent, my first question to you, Timur, is this. What is the policy, the general immigration policy of Russia? What are they looking to accomplish? Are they looking to attract the best and the brightest? Are they looking to attract the younger people? What is the big idea? What is the big idea here, if any?
Well, I would say that we hear within the last year, I would say many different level of government officials say that we potentially need more foreigners. But in Russia, as you may know, if we don't take right now what's going on in the US with all the illegal immigration, if we speak about legal immigration, Russia is on the second place in the world immigration-wise. Yeah, but most of the immigrants come from the former Soviet Union republics or Ukraine including, yeah, and therefore Russian immigration system is unfortunately not yet ready or designed to get the best talent or the Westerners, let's say, yeah. There are some laws which say, okay, we need a foreign IT specialists and we can grant them permanent residency, but this is not a, I would say, serious immigration program like Canada would have, like Germany would have, like US would have, unfortunately, as of now.
Okay. Kevin?
Okay, so let's just dive into it. Our list of questions we put together from the people in all of our Telegram channels, and we've probably got more than we can cover here, so we may give you brief details on some of them, and we will give you Timur's contact information if you need more details. But I kind of set these up in the order that people will approach them. So starting with visas, Timur, what types of visas can people use to apply for residency?
And what are the easiest ones to get?
The most important part.
Again, I'll try to be very brief, but Russian immigration laws, we don't have an immigrant visa like United States. You go to the website of the United States Special Agency and it says immigrant visa, non-immigrant visa. In Russia, we don't have such type of immigrant visas, yeah, and therefore, because of that fact, we have all of the issues, yeah, such issues as in Crimea, in Yaroslavl, in Krasnodar, in some of the regions, local immigration authorities say, listen, you cannot apply for the temporary residency or residency permit based on a tourist visa. Okay, our question is, what type of visa a foreign national should have in order to apply for a temporary residency or residency visa if there are no immigration visas, yeah? The answer would be, okay, they need to get private visa. Okay, where do you get a private visa from? Some Russian local. Okay, how more legit this is rather than a tourist visa. From the laws, we know that the law exactly says foreign national can apply for a temporary residency permit provided that he is legally in Russia. tourist visa is a legal way to be in Russia. And moreover, Moscow immigration authorities, understanding that there are no special type of immigrant visas, they do accept applications for temporary residency or residency permit based on a tourist visa. We will be, I don't know why regional immigration authorities do not follow the same rules that Moscow immigration authorities do, whether it's lack of knowledge, whether it's human factor, whether they have their own kind of understanding of the laws. But we will definitely raise this issue up to the head of immigration.
And one of the things I think with this private state visa, why certain regions ask for that, is I think by the logic, again, that you should be getting married to like someone in Russia. So in theory, you should have some family already waiting here to help you out in issuing this private visa that demands you provide the permanent address where you'd be staying at, essentially. Because one of the reasons we started the American Village Project is that for many years, I've been asked by people if they, Tim, how can I move to Russia? Well, if you're already married and you're not yet, or you're not planning to get married to a Russian citizen, then you're not moving here from the West for the most part, right? And so, yeah, it's kind of a big barrier where the system really wants you to get married to a Russian citizen really badly.
Well, I would say that if a person is married to a Russian, then the fact that there are no immigrant visas, private visa sponsored by a spouse would be more logical rather than a tourist visa.
Yeah.
But when we have families that are not married to Russians moving with all their kids, there is no other way to get them temporary residency, because like some authorities say, okay, let them get business visas. But guess what? On business visas, you cannot get dependent family members. Like kids cannot get dependent visas if the main applicants get business visas.
And don't the business visas last for a much shorter time as well, or no?
It's pretty much same, but Americans, as you know, have this benefit that their visas, regardless whether business or tourist, last for 3 years. All the rest,
I see. Okay.
No.
Okay, so we had a lot of questions about highly qualified specialist visas because they just changed the rules on that. Is there anything you can add on that, Timur? Is that even a path that's worthwhile?
Of course, there is a lot to say about highly qualified specialists. Okay, highly qualified specialist visa was lobbied by AmCham, American AmCham, European associations, business association in 2010, in order to allow for expats that were many in Russia at that time to get easier way to get work permits. And it's a great program. I would say that one of the best in the world. Because the main qualification or the main criteria to get a 3-year highly qualified specialist visa is the amount of salary that a foreign national should be paid. So if a foreign national finds a job and the Russian employer pays, currently the amount is approximately $1,700 US a month, gross, including 13% tax, that person can qualify as a highly qualified specialist worker and get a 3-year visa within 1 month. From March 2024, it will go to $2,600 US dollars. The salary will increase by the law.
Ooh.
Now it's a very, very good actually work permit. Highly qualified specialist work permit allows foreign national to apply for residency based on such a work permit literally next day as soon as the person collects his work permit. Now this residency would be limited in time for the validity of the work permit. So the maximum validity of this residency will be for 3 years. Now, the changes that came into force last week basically say that if a foreign national has a 3-year work permit as a highly qualified specialist, then applied for the residency and hold this residency for 2 years, he can then apply for indefinite residency, no longer linked to employment. That's the only thing that has been changed last week.
But that's a very positive change.
It's a positive change, Basically, if a foreign national doesn't find an employment, one of the ways to do it is come to Russia, register your own company, employ yourself. Okay, it's very good if you do business and the company generates the profit and you basically pay yourself the salary from the profits. That's good. If not, foreign national can basically loan money to his own company, pay himself the salary, and all his family members in about 2.5 years will get permanent residency not linked to the employment. Of course, there are expenses, which we calculated everything. It would be in taxes for a national, will have to pay about 2.5 million rubles in 2.5 years.
Yeah. And one thing to point out is that why so many people haven't really done this program is one, finding a job in Russia from the West as a Westerner is very difficult. Very few companies are going to be willing to go through the pain in the butt to hire you that is required to do this. And also, it really requires the help of someone like Timur to actually make this happen. Because I'll just put it this way: if someone watching right now is really excited, that's good, but you're not going to be able to do the paperwork yourself in Russia.
By the company, no, it's everything is sponsored by the company. Yeah, foreign national cannot do it unless he registers his own company.
Yeah,
but it's quite a process. Yeah.
It's for the professionals to do that.
Yep. So how about the investment program, the Golden Visa program? And this kind of falls into Tim's realm as well with the American Village project.
The investment program, the Russian Golden Visa, as everyone calls it, it's a very new program. It's literally today is 1 year, as it was 1 year anniversary when it was adopted. It has several criteria that will qualify for the investor, and basically, like for example, in Europe, in Portugal, you can go to Portugal, purchase real estate, and you can get residency based on that. But if you want the golden residency, which the main part of it is that you don't need to stay in Portugal for any time, pretty much, you need to invest a certain amount of money. In Russia, the situation is a bit different. So in case you want to get a permanent residency based on real estate, you need to invest, if we say Moscow, it's 50 million rubles into real estate, and it's 50 million rubles cadastral value. Cadastral value
it's
is
now
the
50
value.
more. Last time we talked, it was 25. It's 50?
Moscow as a city, it's 50. Moscow region, oblast is 25.
Each region is different, right?
For Crimea, it's 20 million. Yeah, but okay, one thing is the value, the value, but it's not the market value. Yeah, it's the cadastral value. In Russia, normally the cadastral value is 30 to 50% less than the market value. That's number one limiting factor. And the second limiting factor is that it has to be brand new property. It has to be built not older than 2 years ago.
I'd just like to add that, for example, with the cadastral value versus the market value, if I put my house up for sale tomorrow, it would probably fetch 5 or 6 million rubles due to its location. The cadastral value of it is 800,000 rubles.
It's in your case, it's
nothing. That's less than a car.
Yeah, it's 6 times difference. Yeah, so that's about investment into property. And moreover, you invest, you have to wait for 1 year, and they don't give you any immigration status before you're eligible to apply for residency. Another possibility is investment of 30 million rubles into an existing Russian company. My opinion that very few would be invested into private companies because you need to do the proper due diligence process. You need to have an exit strategy. It's a pretty hard process. Yeah. So I believe that most of the foreigners would be investing into public companies, but now there is a limitation. Yeah. That foreigners from unfriendly countries cannot buy shares of the publicly traded Russian companies. Yeah, so somebody from a friendly countries can invest 30 million rubles in, say, Sberbank, right away apply for residency. After the person gets the residency, he can sell the shares or do whatever they want. Next ground is that you set up your own company, and then the company has to pay taxes in the amount of 4 million rubles for 2 consecutive years, so overall 8 million, before you can apply for residency. I think the route when you set up your own company and hire yourself as a highly qualified specialist is an easier and cheaper. And the last one is investment into socially significant projects. And what is socially significant project? Pretty much nobody knows. Yeah, because the government said, okay, we leave it to the regional authorities. Actually, Ministry of Economic Development, which is behind the program, they have on their website a list of socially significant projects that they kind of approved or they recommend. But when I've spoke with them and when I met them, they gave to me this huge pile of documents and said, look at the socially significant projects. And basically those projects are not investment ones. They're social liabilities of the regions. So to give you an example, if an investor somewhere in, I don't know, Magadan puts 15 million rubles, it's the lowest amount of the investment, 15 million rubles, and reconstructs a public school, he can get residency. But how do you get your money back? So none of the projects that are listed on the Ministry of Economic Development website have any way that you can get your money back. Yeah, and basically we came up, I mean, as a law firm, because we have to do some homework for our government, unfortunately, we came up with a socially significant project, which is investment of 15 million rubles into multifunctional sports centers. And why they are socially significant? Because Russian president said there is a program that to promote sports and physical culture among Russians, and then there are companies that started to work on that. So two sports facilities are already built in Moscow. There are more to come. And basically the ground there is foreign national invests 15 million for 5 years. After third year, he receives 20% back of his investment. Fourth year, another 20%. And after fifth year, the remaining 60%. So of course you lose money-wise because of the inflation, but the nominal value of your 15 million will be returned to you by this company. Why it's socially significant? Because they provide free of charge facilities to kids, 2-3 hours a day. All the rest, they make money.
Well, hopefully there'll be a few American football fields in there. Speaking as someone who works in the Russian Super League, it would always be appreciated. So maybe we can work something out.
Yeah, the guy that I met, actually, he is a very big promoter of rugby.
Well, they use the same field and the same equipment. It's just a matter of the government understanding that. That's a huge mental barrier they have.
Yeah. So that's in a nutshell about investment and golden visa.
Okay. So Tim, how does this play into the American village?
Not a whole lot. We wanted to make the American Village a socially significant project, but like Timur just explained, it doesn't quite fit the definition that the government made it seem like it would have. So we've kind of given up on that avenue, and it's more just a matter of getting the proper promissory notes from the leaders of various different regions that the people who do buy their home and buy their land will be allowed to get through that delicious immigration quota that is the nightmare of every Western foreigner. So that's essentially where we're at right now. So we still have, I'll put it this way, it's maybe not as quick as we would have liked through this special program, but it'll still work. And it's, again, one of the few ways without a lot of these big business, big financial investment shenanigans for the middle class or lower middle class to actually be able to start a life here in a more blunt way, the way I like things.
Cool. So I need to kind of get input on the chat that's going on in the channel here, because I think there's some misconceptions being thrown out. One of the viewers asked if there was a retirement visa or talk of having one in the future like Mexico has. No. And somebody said, no, Russians don't want older people. They only want young people. Is that true?
I've spoken with presidential administration on this matter because they requested that we provide some of the ideas on how to change immigration legislation. And when we proposed a pensioner visa, like in Mexico, Panama, I think Costa Rica, they said, like, why? I said, well, you don't understand one thing. It's because pensioners are forever tourists. They have their money, they have their pensions coming from abroad. They don't request pension from the Russian government. They're basically internal, eternal tourists, forever tourists. And then they were like, oh, yeah, that's interesting. So it took a bit of explanation why that needs to be done. But I think we're very far away from that happening right now. So I think one of the ways, if the pensioner has the funds, I will have to say like this, is one of the investment visas.
Yeah, I can also say that at least in Crimea, we have good luck with retirees coming here. We've got Peter, who is an admin on Tim's channel, who is a retiree. He is just applied for, got a quota, and has applied for his temporary residency. And I have a retiree from Florida that will actually be here in February. She has her residency now. So, you know, it isn't unheard of to just come through the normal process.
Well, yeah, and one thing people also have to understand is that when it comes to immigration, the people who can sort of risk immigrating to another country are the people in the phase of life before children or after children. It's really hard. It's a lot harder. It's a lot more scary to make the jump to a new country when you have like 4 children, you know? So I think that the whole retiree category, sort of being retired, gives you a little bit more flexibility to be adventurous than, say, when you're in your 30s and working to support the kids.
Okay, so and this one kind of fits into what we're talking about. We often refer to applying for residency. What are your chances for receiving residency once you apply? And I'll let you answer that one, Timur, because I know what the chances are in Crimea. It's 1 in 74. So, or however many people out of 74.
Well, it's a matter of if a person has the ground, valid ground, yeah, and we have like you know, guys, what are the grounds? Yeah, it's the Russian wife, Russian kids. Okay, I don't know, investment. So if there is a ground, then the person will eventually get the residency. So it's a matter of whether you are able to submit the application from the first try or from the 20th try. Yeah. But if the person doesn't have the ground, whatever you do, it will be denied. If we speak about quota, yeah, which is like anyone can apply for the quota. So what are the chances of the quota being issued? Okay, let's say it's always 50-50. Yeah, it's either yes or no. But how often it will be no, that's a good question. How many times you apply? You can apply every month, for example, in Moscow. Whether you will be denied 10 times and you'll get it on the 11th, or whether you'll get it on the 1st, I cannot answer, because quotas is, I won't be speaking how the quotas are, how this whole system works here in Russia, in order not to get myself into trouble. But basically, the way we see it, and the way I think that me and Tim and my advice would be, if you plan to come to Russia, preliminary try to get informing of the authorities that, okay, we're coming to this region. Maybe like, would you be so, I don't know, willing to give us the quotas instead of giving quotas as you do to the citizens of the former Soviet Union republics, who get 90% of the quotas just because they're here. So quota is something like a lottery, so it's hard to say what are the chances. We always try to step in and say, okay, these people are coming to, I don't know, Nizhny Novgorod, yeah, but it's still not a guarantee, because in the Caucasus republics, in the southern republics of Russia, we tried to do this and it didn't lead to anything. Although we received replies, yes, you can come, file, whatever. Still, the system, how it works there, is very resistant, especially to Westerners right now coming, because they're all afraid it's bordering republics and they're, oh my God, Americans came, let us send some security people to speak with them and see why they came. Yeah, so it's a bit of challenging situation. But if you have it now, you'll definitely get temporary residency or permanent residency.
I just want to say that with the Timur has to be a little bit more, let's just say, professional and neutral, and maintain people's privacy. I can be a little bit more harsh and just say that in general, the more south you go, the rougher it is. Like around the Caucasus Mountains where Kevin is, even if you do jump through every hoop, sometimes they still might say no. Moscow, St. Petersburg, and the regions around them, and the north, where it's cold, are much more reliable. If they generally, at the migration services, if they generally at some point accept your documents, there's pretty much a 99% chance that they're going to then actually give you the residency thing. The real moment of truth is more so when they accept your documents, more so than when they give you the residency, if that makes sense. Because if something looks even slightly off, they're not taking them.
Yeah,
They
if
push
they
it back through the window.
If they accepted it, unless there is an issue with state security, 99.9% you'll get the permit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just, as an example for people, my mother-in-law came here in 2014. She applied for a quota 7 times, and she was a Ukrainian national, native speaker of Russian language teacher, 7 times to get a quota. I came here and applied in 2020. I applied twice. The first time I was rejected because I applied a week before they had their meeting and they wanted to look into my background. So there's just no telling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't know. So it definitely helps to have what I usually call in English the legal foothold that Timur was mentioning. Be it marriage, be it one of the investment programs, highly qualified specialist business, all set up properly by a proper specialist and not by some person trying to click away on the keyboard there. Because that definitely helps. There is the thing where you can try to live here on tourist visas and try to make something happen. Because one paradox with Russia that I always tell people about immigrating here, because it's true, is in order to really immigrate to Russia, you kind of already have to be in Russia. And that is a tough paradox to get through. And it's not fun.
You had a question, Arkady?
No, I'm listening. It is a paradox. It's interesting. I guess you cannot just walk into the border and become a
no.
Into the southern border, right?
Well, hey, people in the West say that they don't like about the West the open immigration. Well, guess what? Here you're the immigrant, and the situation the border is not open. I'll tell you that.
You're telling me Russia doesn't have the guilt in front of like other people, doesn't feel that they owe them. They owe them a free entry, right? There's no moral boundary like that.
The migration service workers, the look on their face towards you, it is not a look of guilt. I'll tell you that much.
So Timur, we had a couple of questions on having to register when you actually enter Russia. And Tim and I have a couple of people we know that have had some issues with this. So what are the requirements when you arrive about registering where you're going to be staying? Can you move around after you've registered without re-registering? What documents do you need? And who can actually register you?
Yeah, in Russia, basically registration is a must after 7 days, in general, after 7 days of arrival, except for highly qualified specialists. Yeah, those guys have 90 days to get registered. The regular people, like coming on tourist visa, they need to be registered within 7 days. And that's a really hard thing to do. Why? Because if you go to a hotel, no problem, hotel registers you. But how long you're going to stay in a hotel? Yeah, you eventually will need to rent something. When you try to rent something, most of the landlords will refuse to register. I would say 9 out of 10 will refuse to register. And those that will even say, okay, we'll register you, doesn't mean that they will successfully do it. Yeah, because it's not something they do on a daily basis. Yeah. And now they changed the system, at least in Moscow. You should register by electronically through this gosuslugi, which has to be kind of very easy, etc., etc. You electronically send it. But guess what? You may get a reply in 2 weeks which says, sorry, there was a mistake, no registration. Which is already you delayed your registration. Yeah. Without a registration, you cannot pass the medical tests. Yeah, which are also essential if somebody comes for longer than 3 months, and then it's a chicken or egg situation. Yeah, and when you go and say, okay, we did whatever we tried in order to be legal, we understand that we failed to the registration. We don't want to exit Russia in order to kind of reset our timing. Let us pay the fine. The people might say to you, the immigration, sorry, but we cannot fine you because your medicals are due. You didn't do the medicals. Yeah, but we cannot do the medicals because we don't have the registration. Yeah, but we cannot do you the registration without the medicals. And you're like, well, that's a strange situation. But
Yeah.
that's life. Yeah. When you move to another, if you travel within Russia and stay in the hotel, your initial registration that you did in the main place where you came doesn't, stays. Yeah. You don't need to do it when you come back, unless there is a problem in the system, which sometimes happens. Yeah. When you go to another region, hotel does the registration. For whatever reason, the system doesn't see your original registration. But the law will be on your side that if you did the original registration, say in Moscow, then you travel to Crimea for longer than 7 days, the hotel registers you, you come back to Moscow, no need to do the registration.
Yeah. And that's why people, you should really hang on to all those pieces of paper, all of them somewhere, until you get citizenship. The day you get citizenship, you can light them on fire. But until that point, you should really keep them.
Yeah. If you exit Russia, come back, new registration. Yeah.
Yes.
That's in a nutshell.
Also, Timur, a lot of people don't understand that there's a temporary residency or not residency, a registration and permanent registration, and people do not seem to get that. Could you explain what is a permanent registration and why is it even more difficult to get a landlord to do it?
Well, foreign nationals can get permanent registration only once they get permanent residency. Yeah, because the permanent residency is for indefinite period of time, and therefore the registration stamp in this permanent residency book will be also without limiting of time. In most of the cases, then the registration will be linked to the visa validity. Yeah, or if it's a temporary residency, then it will be up to 3 years. But it's in most of the cases it's temporary. It's not permanent. Yeah, so you're not referring to propiska like for Russians. Yeah, like the permanent.
Because I think in the old days, the first time I had to do my permanent residency, I had to have propiska. Maybe they've changed that.
When you had Russian citizenship, you mean? No, back
before.
Yeah. No, propiska is something when you own an apartment and you register yourself there. Yeah, if you don't own an apartment, in most of the cases, it's you are in the will of the landlord. Yeah.
Listen.
Yep. So, after someone arrives, what documents should they bring in order to apply for temporary residency? And just so you can keep it short, Timur, I'm going to refer people to your Telegram channel because you actually have videos about that on your Telegram channel, right?
Correct. Okay. So in a nutshell, if somebody immigrates to Russia, the documents that have to be brought in is passport, birth certificate, apostilled, marriage certificate, apostilled, birth certificates of children, birth certificates of pretty much every family member, and criminal records, apostilled for everyone who is older than 14.
Okay, so knowledge tests. There are actually, 3 knowledge tests, right? One for temporary residency, one for permanent, and one for citizenship. But you can come here, and if your knowledge is good enough, you can take the permanent residency test and use that for both temporary and permanent. Is that correct?
Correct. Moreover, permanent residency test is also good enough for citizenship. Citizenship is not good enough for permanent residency. Permanent residency test is harder, that it can be even used for, of course, temporary residency and citizenship as well.
And the tests are really easy. Like, I'll put it this way. As an American, if someone couldn't pass the same difficulty level test of English, they shouldn't be in America. And it's the same thing. It's really basic, like bottom tier.
Well, if somebody doesn't know a word in Russian, that's a bit challenging.
Then it's hard, but that's on them. It is really like you get through the first class in college level. It is super easy.
Yeah, anyone who wishes to move to Russia, they should start learning Russian. Yeah.
Yep. And we have people who can help you learn. Arkady being one of them. And we have Russian lessons here in Russia from my lovely professor wife. my lovely daughter in the United States, and I lost Arkadiy's email.
Oh, I'll put it in the chat, my email. I have a kind of a random question, Timur and Tim. Are there any things in the person's background that can disqualify them or make it much harder to become a citizen or resident of Russia? Criminal past, working for certain government agencies in Russia that maybe appear to be too risky for Russia?
Well, I would say in general, if we speak about background, then it's drugs. Drugs meaning the narcotics.
Yeah.
And if the person committed, I'm not good in American, say this felony or whatever those type of things are, but say if a person was convicted of a crime which equals to a Russian system as a средней тяжести, middle, which to the best of my knowledge is something above 5 years of prison, then it's a deal breaker. And of course, if a person doesn't qualify if the person served, say, in US military, that will not be a deal breaker. If the person currently serves, that will be a deal breaker. But then it's up to the Russian special security service to make a check.
And to sort of research what exactly was this military service.
Exactly.
One thing so people also understand, in Russia, the law and the population is very, very anti-drug. This is not, and sometimes it might feel like a libertarian paradise, but not when it comes to drugs. One thing I'd also like to add is, as someone who worked as a U.S. Peace Corps volunteer, that made me a U.S. State Department employee for 2 years of my life. Obviously, that didn't stop them from giving me Russian citizenship. As one example, I've also met people who had previous military service who got, like our buddy Daniel, that Kevin and I both know. He got Russian citizenship, and he served in the military in the 90s, if memory serves me correct. U.S. military.
Okay. Tim, a question to you. In one place I grew up, they were very serious about drugs because they thought it was a source of much, if not all, other evils as far as crime. Why is it so serious in Russia? Is it for the same reasons?
Kind of. I think because it's also very, like scummy, like lowbrow, I guess. It's kind of like how in Russia, there's not much stuff really gets stolen, from what I've noticed, especially compared to Cleveland, like people just, stealing stuff or vandalism, because that's very like low class. Now, when it comes to con artistry and corruption, oh baby.
And alcoholism too.
Oh yeah, well Well, people definitely look down on alcoholics. Well, I can even tell people is that because a true alcoholic drinks alcohol with nothing else. So you even see bums try to create snacks. So they're outside drinking, but they're like, I've got a snack, so I'm not an alcoholic. So yeah, there's definitely in Russia, people really look down on that. I think it has to do with the sort of like, the word is bydla. It's like bydla culture. I don't know, redneck, hillbilly, ghetto. And so, so people really look down on that. And also because drugs make you go out of your mind. And Russians have sort of a negative opinion on human nature. And if you really take the chains off of the human mind, people get really dangerous. So if you have a negative view of human nature. So
moreover, even if you get Russian citizenship, but then you'll be, caught with drugs. You can lose your Russian citizenship. Such cases already existed under the new law.
Yeah, so that's one thing. If you're one of those people where you just have to smoke weed, don't come here. Just don't. It's not. You're not going to be happy. Yeah.
Legally, you can never become equal then to actual citizens because, a regular Russian is not going to lose their citizenship because of committing any crime except maybe treason, right? But if you're naturalized, then you still don't have the same status.
So you do. It is sort of let's just say, what would it be? De facto, there's a 2-tier citizenship system. Yes.
Okay.
It's just recently under the new law, yeah. Because before that, there was no way you can lose Russian citizenship even if you were not naturalized. But now, 3 months ago, a new law came into force, and yeah, there are grounds when you can lose your Russian citizenship. I don't think that for those that have been born in Russia by birth, but for those that have been naturalized, yeah, you can lose.
Yeah. So that's one thing is again, but it also, I don't want to, because we didn't want to go too deep into some philosophical things, but if in real short, Russian philosopher Alexander Dugin says that who is a Russian? It is someone who speaks the Russian language and believes in the Russian ideology. But these are sort of on like a scale. And we as foreigners are never really going to speak Russian or understand it, or maybe never really truly understand the Russian ideology. So we can never really make it to that 100% Russian status, but our kids can. So something to think about.
So here's a comment from the chat. You have anything to say about this, Timur? If you give up your foreign citizenship, your Russian one cannot be removed?
Yeah. That's correct.
Okay. And we have this question. Is there a bias against developing countries? I'm from Costa Rica and have been there as a tourist, but I don't know where to start. Everyone's treated the same when it comes to immigration, right? For the most part, no matter where you're from.
I would say yes. I would even say that there is less... there's more problems if you come from so-called friendly countries right now rather than from the West, to be honest. Like, I would say it's harder for, somebody from Asia rather than an American, my opinion.
And here's one from our friend Dan. Question for Timur. I would like to help a farming family move to Russia. Can I acquire land for farming and invite them to work and live on it? Is this legally possible? And do you advise against it?
Well, it depends. If it's from Moscow settlers, I think, then received Russian citizenship. So as a Russian citizen, you can own farmland, yeah? And inviting professional farmers from the West, it's, I think, just a matter of human to human type of relations, yeah? Legally possible. It's not legally possible to buy farmland by a foreigner until getting Russian citizenship. But apart from this, I think it's gonna work, because Russia needs a huge number of people in every sphere. Agriculture, farming is one of them for sure.
But Dan's going to have to find a place for them to live in the same state where they'll be able to have, be registered. And then also remember is that, there's no guarantee with the immigration quotas. So again, that kind of puts then the burden on Timur's shoulders, because he's going to have to have them get through the immigration quota, or do the whole, like, maybe highly qualified specialists, farming company, some kind of setup to make this whole thing happen. So it's, definitely going to be very bureaucratic. But you can buy land and have someone else work the land for you. Long story short, as long as you're a Russian citizen. And then, Dan, if that's too much work for you, I can make it happen.
I have a politically incorrect question, and feel free to skip it if it's incriminating. If a big baller with tons of money is moving to Russia and is thinking that if they pay enough to the right people, they're going to streamline and expedite the process significantly. Do they have a point, or it's not going to work for them?
My opinion, no. Legally, no.
Can they bribe their way into it easier? Can they get their documents to the top of the pile if they're otherwise qualified by paying extra to get things expedited?
Legally, no. No.
In
illegally, I advised against it for sure, because they can, they can make a check backwards and get all your documents
thrown out of the country.
Yeah. And remember, the 90s are over. Maybe there still is the possibility if they really know someone with the right position but that is a delicate and dangerous dance that you don't want to do.
No, if they know the right people, I mean, up there, then there's no need to bribe. If
That's
they know,
true anywhere in the world. If you know the right people in the right places, you can make things happen. That's human
Yeah.
nature, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, there's no way to just without really knowing people make stuff like that happen. And even if you think you know people, because that's one of the problems that I don't like about sorry, here comes a big diatribe. Russian people give terrible advice to Westerners about how to move to Russia. It is the worst advice because they
they
don't
never
know,
tried to move. What
because
do they know?
they've never done it. It's kind of like people are like, well, Tim, tell me about how to immigrate to America. Don't know. It's really they don't know. But the thing is, I know that I don't know, so I keep my mouth shut. They blather on with all these assumptions that every person from Tajikistan just pays $5,000 to some guy's cousin. It's real easy. That's not how it is. That's just in their fantasies.
So, question from Jay. Why is there a soft spot for the US with 3-year visas and Brits only get 1 year?
Because when there was this reload, or how it was called, when Lavrov and Hillary Clinton pushed
The
this
big
button,
reset or whatever.
yeah, Russia signed a bilateral agreement between US and Russia, basically allowing Russians to get 3-year visas and Americans 3-year visas. It's a bilateral agreement, and there is none with other countries.
Okay, so am I required to purchase medical insurance from immigration now?
From immigration, no.
They don't sell anything.
Yeah,
They sell sadness.
I know where this came from because when Peter went to apply for his quota, they made him buy a policy. Now, who he bought it from, who knows? It came from the FMS office or somebody there.
Really?
Probably some insurance agent. But they made him buy a policy. Yeah.
Now talk about people making deals behind the scenes. I don't know. That's awfully suspicious, but it's probably wasn't very expensive in the grand scheme of things.
No,
Yeah,
for sure.
like
It's very cheap, but yeah.
1,300. Oh, pfft. Yeah. All right.
Oh.
I have a next question. So I'm planning to immigrate to Russia. I have these really nice weapons. Can I bring them with me in any way? Can I keep some of them? If so, what are the limitations? If not, what are the gun rights in?
Oh, that's easy. You're a foreign person. You can't own guns in Russia. No, you lose.
You cannot bring, even if you are the best sniper in the world, and you want to go and support Russia with what's going on, you will not be allowed to bring anything. Even some delegations of security people that come with foreign leaders sometimes are not allowed to bring guns. They're personal bodyguards of I don't know, leader from United States. Russian security may say, no, your bodyguards come without guns, for example. That can happen. So foreign nationals cannot bring guns to Russia.
Yeah. But when you get citizenship, then you can go through the headaches and rings and hoops and start buying guns here and ammo and all that stuff.
Yeah, you can even register at Gosuslugi and apply for one.
Yeah, now you can even do it online. Get your gun or your hunting ticket, even though you don't have to buy a hunting weapon. Get your hunting ticket online. It's something I need to do eventually, but I'm so often not. One difference is in Russia, you're very liable if your weapons get stolen, and I'm not home a lot, so I'm always like, should I, shouldn't I? So far, I'm in the shouldn't I camp.
Yeah, now you have to requalify every, 3 or 5 years, Timur?
For guns?
Yeah.
Guns is not like, the only thing I looked in the guns was whether a person can bring or not, because he had like 100 guns and he wanted to like it's huge ammo.
Kevin, you do have to kind of like re-up it, kind of like a driver's license. When how in America they last for like 4 years or something. It's kind of like that. It's not a huge thing, but I can tell you what is that essentially the gun laws are sort of designed where you're either into it or you're not. Like with me, I like guns. I've used them all my whole life, but it's like I don't have a driver's license right now. I don't have the time to go to the range, so I don't have one. Like basically the people who have guns use them. The way the laws kind of work out. So
So, I have a friend, Ben. I actually know who this question came from. He has temporary residency and lives in the Krasnodar region. And his question is, can he apply for permanent residency as soon as his child is born? His wife is due in February.
He can apply for citizenship as soon as his child is born. And he can apply for residency after 5 years of after 8 months, after 8 months of residing on temporary residency. So temporary residency gives the right to apply for permanent after 8 months of residing on temporary. The child has nothing to do with the permanent residency application. Child will allow him to apply for citizenship if he wants.
That's cool. So, another question I had here is, if I pass the medical and knowledge exams in one region, can I apply for residency in a different region? Or do I have to do
this
it
is one
all
of
in
those
one
things.
region?
This is one of the things, Kevin. I'm going to be a jerk here. Don't do that, guys. Don't get into these weird theoretical, strange questions. If you're going to start the immigration process in one region, that's where you're going to be. You know what I mean? Like if you started it, just do it there. Or they also don't last very long with the medical ones. They kind of get extinguished pretty quick. So you're probably going to have to do them over anyways. Just start over. If you had to move to another region of Russia, just start over again. The test is easy. The medical exams don't have a long shelf life. But in general, if this is a hypothetical, don't ask hypothetical questions that are just weird like that. Pick a region in Russia and then fight for that region.
Just to add, medicals have to be done in the region where you apply.
Yeah.
Have to be. Language tests can be done anywhere. You can do
it's national.
Yeah, you can do language test in Moscow and then apply any place in Russia that would be valid. But medicals, they have to be done in the region where you apply. And medicals now are valid for 1 year.
Oh, that's crazy! It used to be like a month. It was 30 days or something. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I was totally wrong on that one. Sorry.
Some things are getting better.
Yeah, some things are getting better. Wow, whole year. But anyways, yeah.
So at what age can I avoid the knowledge and language test? It's now 70, isn't it?
Yes, 70 for men, 65 for women. And below 18.
But again, don't come here. If you can't pass that super easy basic level test, you're going to have a very lonely, well, unless you join the American village and have some neighbors who speak English, you're going to have a very lonely, frustrating life here. If you can't even do like the basics of basics.
Agreed.
And
you won't integrate with the culture if you don't speak the language.
I never understood. You have people who move to America and they live in their communities. Now, if you come to work here for a few months, I understand. But if you move and you know you have another 20, 30 years to live or more, and you just resign from learning the language, you're never going to feel home. So it's good that there is a pressure to integrate.
Yeah. Or just think about it. Say you're here, or for some reason you're alone. Okay. And a part, I had my appendix removed. I was able to, even this was many, many years ago, so my Russian was much worse. I could tell them, hey, the problem is in my gut. It is happening right here. It is a very sharp pain that comes and then it goes. That's not the most complicated English I just used, right? That's what you have to do. Because if I could have explained that, none of them spoke English. They just shrug their shoulders and be like, I don't know, here's some Pepto-Bismol or whatever you take for your stomach. And I'd be dead.
Also, not understanding what's going on around you when people speak. How are you going to feel part of it, any of it, ever?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Like you don't know what the names of the bus stops are. Some of the signage in Moscow is in English in connection with the World Cup, but outside of Moscow, it really isn't. So how can you read? You have to be able to read. I've even known people. I don't want to hate on them. But like some people who've moved here, they can't pronounce the place they live at. Like that's unacceptable, especially if you get into an emergency situation. Where do you live? Well, for example, I'm in Cleveland. No, Cleveland. What? Cleveland. Sorry, pal. I don't know where you live. Where do you live? What street? St. Clair. Like, come on.
Same with your phone number.
You'd beat that too. Yeah.
reality is, you know, you're going to fill out a lot of forms. You're going to answer a lot of questions. You're going to have to go to stores, hire services, and
Mhm.
most, if any of these people aren't going to speak English. It's
Hmm.
pretty hard to get your toilet fixed if you don't speak the language.
Oh yeah, because the guy's gonna come. He's gonna be like, "So what's wrong with it? What do you do? Toilet bad. Like, come on." You got to get with the program to some extent.
Guys, I have an idea for you, Kevin. You can post. We don't have to rush. You can post the Q&A on your website. Make it very detailed, very nice with Timur. It will be a great resource. It can be updated with further questions. It can become an encyclopedia of immigration questions. And the stuff will change. Timur, do you envision things to change if and when things normalize a little bit with the West? Maybe things will be made easier?
Well, my biggest call is that we need to do everything now before things normalize with the West, because for Russia, that's the chance. Yeah, it's just that everyone in the Russian government on pretty much all levels are working honestly. Give all my, how to say, respect to them. They're working 14 hours a day, everyone, but most of their, of course, thoughts are with regards to the special military operation and everything around that. Yeah, and plus economic development, but we are trying to push the new immigration laws, but it's a bit of frustrating. People are saying, okay, yes, it sounds very nice. The green card lottery, as in the United States, is a cool idea. Bringing the traditional Catholics is a cool idea. 2024 is the year of family in Russia, and bringing big families from the West, escaping from the LGBT propaganda and nightmare, is a cool idea. But nobody yet has a gut to sign on a paper saying done deal. Nobody wants yet to take the responsibility until the big boss says let's do it. But we are trying to change the law.
So, how about some questions on money? We often get asked, how much money can a foreigner bring into Russia?
Let me rephrase this a little bit, Kevin, with your permission. Make it more.
Go for it.
Okay, a person is moving to Russia. They have significant amount of money. Given all the restrictions with banking, all the BS is going on, what is the easiest and most efficient way for them to transfer the money, and what are the limitations on amounts?
I would say there is no simple answer. All depends on each particular person's case and comfort, because we do have cases when people use crypto, and this crypto goes basically to a person's Sberbank account, and Sberbank but that requires a person to come to Russia, physically open an account in Sberbank, which takes 15 minutes, and then we tell to Sberbank managers, listen, this person sold his house. He has $1 million US. Here is his documents, notarized, translated. Now this money will be dropping on his account with thousands of different payments during one day. Do you object it? They said, okay, you showed us the documents. It's okay. The only thing that will be a much bigger red flag for us if this person next day will be cashing that out. That will be a problem. So crypto in this sense, with some of the things that needs to be done, is a way. Another way, of course, if we're avoiding banking at all, but we, of course, person can come with his hard wallet or without a wallet and then cash it out here without escaping the banks. This is also possible in Russia, but then there is a question, what do you do with this amount of cash? If bringing cash in a luggage, anything you bring more than 10,000 per person, including 1 month baby, that's a person, and 1 month old baby can also bring 10,000, should be declared at the customs. What else? Sending money directly, to the best of my knowledge, there is Raiffeisen Bank that is still has SWIFT, but why the money won't go through is because of the correspondent banks on the other side. The correspondent banks may say, We understand that this bank is not under sanctions. We understand that this bank has SWIFT, but we just don't like Russia. It smells bad. We won't send the money. We don't care.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well,
Sometimes using third country banks, but that's always questionable, and whether it's possible, what is possible today may not be possible tomorrow, because American government is very hard on United Arab Emirates Bank, on Georgian banks. Now they're hitting Armenian banks, then they'll be hitting Kyrgyzstan banks. So they are doing their work in order to stop these procedures through third country banks.
And one thing is, someone appealed to me about they wanted to bring a large amount of money in gold, and so apparently it worked out, or at least what I was able to find on like legal sites on Russia was that you could bring something like per family $25,000 worth of gold, and then after that a 15% import tax on it. So 30. I think that's the case if you wanted to bring 30%. Metals. What, 30?
More than 30. If you bring more than if you bring gold worth more than 25,000, you'll have to pay in cash 30% worth of gold more than this amount.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, so yeah, so 25,000 is about the limit. Another thing someone even mentioned recently is they were telling me that they have these plans to like drive to Russia and like come over the border from Latvia, and I had to tell them that like that would be the worst place or the worst way to bring cash into Russia. Why? Because generally most of the border guards in Eastern European countries hate Russia. They pick them out specifically as guys who hate this place, and they're going to hate you for coming here with a bunch of money. And guess what? Border guards can get away with a lot of shenanigans and don't have a lot of oversight. So that is, I think that radically increases your risk of having a corrupt border guard on the Latvian or Estonian side take a percent or all of your money, as opposed to like a Turkish airline or the airport security in Dubai. They're not going to take your stuff.
So do you have to pay any fees if you declare more than 10,000 in cash coming in?
No, you don't pay any fees. It's just that you have to declare. It's your money. You don't pay any taxes or fees, yeah, unless you bring gold.
Okay, so got some more questions here. This is from Dan, Moscow Settlers again. And this is valid. I had this from a couple of different people. Personally, personal information. How do Russians protect themselves? You know, I know banks send text messages whenever you transfer money or you make certain payments. You know, card payments, they don't. But in general, personally identifiable information, how can people protect themselves in Russia?
Well, it's not a bit of my topic. I would say you need to be cautious, yeah, because right now in Russia there is a lot of fraud on telephone fraud. Yeah, people are calling and they say we are from central bank, we are from your bank, we are from police, and tell you all the stupid things. Just do not do anything whatever somebody calls you and does. Yeah. With regards to bank, to the best of my knowledge, they have pretty good security levels, yeah, double identification or whatever those methods are. But to give 100% guarantee that if you provided information, say to Gosuslugi or to any other Russian authority, that it wouldn't be stolen by some hackers, it's very hard to say that it's never gonna happen.
Yeah, essentially, there's there's a lot of you know, kind of like propaganda posters and advertisements that tell people never answer a call from any bank. You call them. You know, you call the bank, because I've actually gotten calls where they were able to sort of disguise the number and make it look like Sparebank's number. So, so don't answer any calls from banks or anyone. And two, if there's a real problem with the police, they could show up at your door. So they're not going to call your personal number to have a chit chat with you.
Yeah, I've actually in Crimea had calls from people claiming to be the Moscow police, and my car was involved in an accident, and they want me to come down to the station and, you know, file a report. You know, doesn't happen.
No. I was also got this one. I was kind of mixed stories, but someone was telling me that they were informed that like the bank called them and said we need to meet at night about something about the money you deposited. That will never happen. No one will ever meet you at night after the bank is closed to talk to you about some money you deposited. They don't care.
And they're going to send a taxi to pick you up.
Is it
fair?
that
was also part of it. Yeah.
Is it
the
similar?
bank will never pay the taxi. Yeah.
Is it similar to America, where if there is an important issue that needs to be addressed, nobody's going to call you, they're going to send you a letter?
Yeah, I see. Yeah, mostly stuff in the post office, because there's a war on. When I had to get go to the draft office or whatever, I got given a piece of paper, so it wasn't a phone call.
Guys, thank you, everyone. I hope to see you all next time. Great chat. I have to run, but
Thanks.
All right. Nice seeing you.
Nice seeing you.
Bye.
See you later, Arkady.
See you later.
Yeah, Arkady got in trouble. I kept him quite long on a stream back about a month ago, and he was given a time limit by his better half. So,
that's so well.
So
that's never a good sign. Got to dictate the terms.
Yeah. So going back to banks now, tomorrow we do have some ways where people can get money through SWIFT by going to an alternative country and transferring money from there. Correct?
That is all needs to be checked on case-by-case basis. It can go through, it may not go through. Sometimes even direct transfer from United States to say Raiffeisen will go through, but now Raiffeisen charges 50% as a commission. Yeah, so you need to look into that a bit more before doing anything. Even if that goes through, then you end up paying to this bank here in Russia.
Well, yeah, or like Tinkov even said, they're like, well, technically we're not under sanctions, so you could send money. However, we claim zero liability for the transfer. I.e., if 100% of the money gets stolen, it's not their problem. Fantastic.
Yep. So, had several people asking about taxes on foreigners. If they come to the country and they start working, what is the tax rate that they have to pay?
There are two main things to consider. If somebody comes to a country on a regular work visa, like a 1-year visa, not the highly qualified specialist, then for the first 183 days, that person's salary would be taxed at 30%. But once the person becomes tax resident after physically staying more than 183 days in Russia, then he becomes tax resident and pays 13%. And moreover, the initially 30% rate that was paid will be kind of offset. Yeah. Now, if a person comes as a highly qualified specialist work permit holder, from day one, that person is taxed at 13%, 1-3.
Okay, and what if somebody becomes a citizen and opens a business? What do you recommend? Somebody was asking about an LLC, which I think is an OOO here, right? Or an individual. I don't remember what they call it. My wife's that.
Yeah, well, it depends on, foreign national, even with a tourist visa, can register an LLC. Yeah. Now, what your wife, there are several other ways to do business if you want to do business without creating an LLC, which is individual entrepreneur. But individual entrepreneur status can be obtained only after foreign national gets either temporary residency permit or permanent residency permit or citizenship. Then there is another status, which is samazanity, yeah, self-employed. And self-employed is available only to Russian citizens. Individual entrepreneur gets taxed at 6%. samozanity, the sole, the how you call it, sole self-employed is taxed at 4%. Yeah, but self-employed, there is a cap on how much you make a year. So if you make below the 2 million rubles a year, then you can qualify for samozanity. That's basically for some small type of, I don't know, individual work. Yeah, because samozanity cannot employ other people. Yeah, self-employed cannot employ other people. Individual entrepreneur can employ other people. And the limitations are about 150 million a year. I would say that LLC, for somebody that doesn't have immigration status, if somebody wants to do business, then it's LLC, which can be registered in a week with a tourist visa.
Yeah, so another question is, immigration asks for proof of income. What qualifies as proof of income?
Again, if immigration depends on which stage. When you apply for temporary residency permit, apply for temporary residency permit. That document is not required. Any document about your money, about your income is not required. Now, when you receive your temporary residency permit, and every year you have to provide a document confirming your stay in Russia, and one other documents that they require that you provide is proof of income. Again, in my opinion, this is not a really good thought through thing by the immigration. Why? Because when you immigrate to Russia and get temporary residency permit, you're not coming specifically to work. Yeah, you can come and immigrate because you have a wife. Yeah, and the fact that you are married allows you to get temporary residency permit, and there is no way in the law that says, okay, you have to work because you came to work. I think those excessive requirements, again, because of the immigrants that come from the Soviet Union republics, Asian Soviet Union republics, yeah, so that they don't go all the way to the immigration through immigration steps, and that then get public, healthcare services, I don't know, some other benefits. Yeah, when we speak about Americans or those people that sell everything what they have abroad in the Western countries and move here, they bring more money rather than they would ever get in Russia in most cases, yeah, especially from the Russian government. But answering your question, basically, we see that more and more regions do not allow just a banking extract from the bank as an enough ground to confirm that you have income. So it has to be either a document confirming that you make salary, like a tax return issued by the employer, so-called 2NDFL, confirming that you receive salary, or it should be a 3NDFL report. Basically, if you make money, say from renting out your apartment, yeah, then you pay the money. You should pay the tax and declare the taxes, and then submitting this 3NDFL report. Or if somebody comes, say, with money, and like when we speak with immigration, we say, guys, how do you think when a person comes with all his family from United States, do you expect him to get an employment right away? Say person doesn't speak Russian. So now it's quite hard to do right away. Okay, then some of the foreigners that move, they teach English. And it's okay if they get their private clients, they pay them in cash. Okay, declare that. Yeah, and by declaring that, that's your income. Yeah, because you show that you paid your taxes. Or you come to Russia right now. Banks provide an extremely high rates on bank savings account. So even Sberbank gives you like 14% interest on the money that you put on their account in their bank. Yeah, so you come to Russia, put the money on the savings account, not just on a regular current account which your debit card is linked to. Yeah, put it on savings account, and then the interest that will accrue there, that's your income. Yeah, and then the bank as a tax how you call it, as a tax agent will deduct the taxes. If your income will be more than 150,000 rubles a year, they will deduct the tax, and that would be your confirmation.
Mm-hmm. And an important thing, Timur, can you do the samazanitist when you're only in temporary residency?
Samazanity is only for Russian citizens or citizens of EAS.
Oh, that's a shame. Boy, that makes it a lot easier for teachers. Yeah.
Only when you're a citizen.
That's a shame. All right. Oh, one other thing. Well, back in the olden days, I was able to actually declare my wife's income as part of the when I was doing the temporary residency for the first time all those years ago. I declared her income with my income together to make it look even bigger. So, is that possible to do nowadays, or it's only the specific person's income, not their family unit?
No, family unit can be also declared. The amounts are not that big, but of course, family. Yeah, it's a living this minimum living.
It's essentially a minimum wage job, and the minimum wage in Russia is ridiculously, absurdly low.
Yeah, $200 a month. But when you have like 10 kids, then it becomes
200 times 10. Yeah.
Yeah. So Crimea will still take a 50,000 rubles in a bank account when you apply for your quota and your temp residency. So they count that as having enough to live on. I know when I applied for my permanent residency back a couple of years ago, my wife hired me under her self-employment business, and that was my income. So there are a variety of ways to do it. Alex Gray is asking about what about young people with little money, enough to survive a year, but are smart, have potential. And, you know, I would say, Alex, it's not a problem if you have the money to survive, because again, depending on the region you're going to, like Timur said, if you can show the money in the bank, then they're happy with it for a limited amount of time anyway.
Yeah, and the amount that they're looking for is, again, very, very minimal. So, yeah, getting through the bureaucracy, if you mean it just is their hope in trying to survive, well, the problem is then you get stuck into sort of this gray area where, you know, you are going to try to, you're going to want to work, but until you have your residency permit, that's not going to be really legal. And so you're going to be kind of stuck in that gray area, and how you find a way out of that is kind of up to you.
Yep.
And lots of ways to do it, but we are not here to promote anything illegal and do not recommend it. Is that the same as if you earn abroad? I still earn my income in the UK working remotely. Kind of falls into a question I was going to answer, where I was asked if US citizens need to pay taxes in the United States on any income they earn in Russia, business or otherwise. Legally, yes, you have to report anything you earn in Russia to the IRS, pay taxes on it, but there was a tax treaty in place, and you could write off like 112,000 US dollars if you could prove that you paid it in taxes to Russia. But I did find that my US income did not count towards my income for residency in Russia, because I wasn't paying taxes on it in Russia.
That's the problem. I see.
But because I had the money in my bank account, I had plenty of money to cover that. So,
yeah. Well, as someone who's never made anywhere close to $112,000 a year, you know, I've always just sort of filed for the IRS there, Senate, that essentially I don't owe anything. This year's going to get weird. Kevin and I kind of had a talk behind the stage, but I have no assets in America. There's kind of nothing to take. So they may try to take something from me, but yeah. So it's kind of, unfortunately, in some ways from an American standpoint, if they really are going to then crack down on people who live here, it kind of does make you either at least owe the IRS or potentially makes you a criminal. So again, at this point in time, with the way we're sort of in a weird soft World War III, if you're going to come here, you kind of have to see it as being a bit of a one-way trip.
Yep. And yeah, like Tim says, it can make you a criminal over there. They can take, if you have Social Security coming in, they can take that away from you.
Yeah.
And, you know, and they
Yeah.
won't allow you to give up your U.S. citizenship if you owe the government money.
Yeah, yeah, and another thing that also comes up with that is even before the war and this potential problem that either will or won't happen in Kevin and I's in my own lives. That issue was that if you're in the United States, you can only spend 35 days or less there. So essentially, I even asked my accountant in America about this. Well, then, so how does this then work? Because there were some work opportunities I was curious about, and based on the income I have, which ain't that great, especially in dollars, I'd immediately owe $10,000. So for the privilege of returning to the United States before the war and all this stuff, it would have cost me $10,000 for the right to return to America.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
Yep.
And I had this one come up already. Those of you who are planning to come here, retirees getting government or Social Security pension payments, make sure you file the papers with the Federal Benefits Unit in Poland, what your address is in Russia. Because as I learned this week when my pension check didn't come, they now have access to the Homeland Security computer systems and the IRS. They knew that I was in Russia. They knew that I had come and I had not gone back to the United States. And they said, gee, you're not in the United States, so we aren't sending you a Social Security check anymore because you didn't report your change of address within 30 days. So make sure you do it if you come here and you're getting a pension.
Is there any way to correct that now?
Yeah, I had to file the form and I have to wait from, they told me 1 day to several months. The woman that I spoke to in Poland was very nice. Despite what we hear in the news, she was not anti-Russian at all. She entered the information in the same day and I had my check the next day.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
The real thing you should get, guys, is your driver's license. I got screwed over on that because of the war. So, yeah, driver's license expired about right before the war started, and yeah, so no driving for Tim.
Well, you can still renew your license over there, right?
I can renew it. I can't get it, but I can't go back there anymore. That's the thing. Right. Because of a lot of these issues with this war and all that. To be honest, Kevin, I haven't gotten any particular definite threat, but I'll put it this way. As someone who works in the Russian media, especially, and is a very prominent media figure, I don't want to go back until something major changes, or at the very least, the war is over. I'm not leaving the territory of Russia. I've had people who are, let's just say, somewhat important in the grand scheme of things tell me, don't leave till the war's over. It's in your best interests.
I agree with you, Tim. I did renew my driver's license this year. So if you can renew online, I can get your license over here. But again, Timur has to put his fingers in his ears because technically we're illegally driving on American driver's licenses.
It depends who you ask.
With the Russian citizenship, yes.
I've been pulled over a couple of times just in the standard checks here in Crimea. And I find that my Colorado driver's license is a great fascination. They have 5-6 squad cars will show up. First time it happened, I thought, I'm really in trouble. And these guys are passing it around. They're taking pictures of it. And...
Yeah. Well, eventually I'll have to get the Russian one eventually. But boy, is that a nightmare. You want to talk about, we've been talking a lot about bureaucracy. I guess the immigration nightmare is worse. But the driver's license, oh man!
I think that there is not a single Russian that can pass the Russian driving license test from the first try.
You know what? I couldn't get through the auto school because I fell into a corruption scandal. they kept making me pay to do the same thing over and over again with no results. So that's another thing is, next time I try this, I'm going to have to really go to a more approved, because you have to pass driver's education, even if you've driven your whole life. And I went to a really corrupt one, and they completely screwed me over. So
no, there is a saying in Russia. Again, I shouldn't say this, but like police, especially the road police in Russia, will never go on strike because of the low wages.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah.
I actually got through the driving school. I have not passed the test, and I haven't got to the driving part yet.
I don't know. The driving school is the hard part for me because it's just such a time sink. Yeah.
Okay. Any further comments, guys, or should we wrap it up? Or do you want to answer some cultural questions?
Guys, if I would also should probably go. Need to get to a pharmacy before they close. Yeah, in Russia, pharmacies, some work 24 hours a day to a cultural matters. Most till 10, but I need to get
All right,
and
give me one or two cultural questions.
Doesn't mean you won't go to 5 to get the drug you need, right?
That too.
yes, that's correct.
Okay, so again, everybody, Timur's email, and you can find his Telegram at Moving to Russia. His website is also movingtorussia.ru. So if you need immigration advice, hire Timur. He has a bad habit of giving free advice. Please hire him and pay him if you want his advice. You can reach out to Tim and his Telegram channel, or you can reach out to me. All of our contact information is on the American Crimea site. So we thank you both, gentlemen. It's been a wonderful show, and look forward to doing it again with you guys.
All right. All the best, man. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Have a good one.